Before he retires.
All right, welcome. Call me enemy. Thank you, Your Honor. Good evening. Thank you for having me here today to talk to you about the audit and the 2016 financials. And so I'll take you through the presentation here. Sorry, I should introduce myself. Corey Van Horst with the accounting firm of MNP. So I'll start right in on the financial statement highlights. Take a snapshot, look at what was in the accounts at the end of December 31st, 2016. The cash and investments at the town were $23.4 million. The long-term debt is down to $932,000. So it's being paid down on schedule. Total liabilities at the town are $12.3 million. So if we take all the financial assets and subtract off all the liabilities, we get what we call a net financial asset position of just over $12 million. Tangible capital assets, physical assets owned by the town, water, sewer, roads, buildings, equipment is at $85.6 million at the end of the year. And the accumulated surplus is at $98 million. And I'll get into what's in that number in a future slide. So for 2016, the town had total revenues of $21.8 million against expenses of $18.6. So the annual surplus on an accounting basis is $3.2 million. So there are non-cash adjustments in there. There are things with moving deferred revenues around. I'll get into the cash flows and show you what actually happened with the cash flows in a couple slides. So that's the annual surplus in accordance with the public sector accounting standards. Just a breakdown here of where the revenues are coming from. You can see the largest source is taxes, followed by the sale of services. So that's your water, sewer, and recreation fees. And then it drops off significantly. The government transfers was that small purple line there, just over $2 million for 2016. On the expense side of things, the biggest one being sewer and water, followed by recreation and culture, and they're the two highest expenses in each year. And then you drop down into the transportation, and the transportation expense does have a lot of road work that's going on, repairs and maintenance, so that's why it's also a large number. Then you've got the third statement in there, what we call the statement of change in net debt, and I really just want to highlight that the purchases of capital assets in 2016 was $4.2 million. On the cash flow side of things, operations at the town brought in $6.6 million. There's the capital number again. Physical assets purchased of $4.2 million. Net transfers into the investment accounts was $7.6, and used by financing is $372,000, paying down debt. So the net cash outflow from the main bank accounts was $5.6 million, but you can see $7.6 went into the investment accounts to earn better rates of interest. So it's actually more like a $2 million cash inflow to net those up. The accumulated surplus of $98 million, 84.7 is invested in the physical assets. It's not cash that's available to be used. 7.3 is set aside in reserves for future projects, capital or otherwise, and there's 5.9 million sitting in the operating fund. Any questions on the financials of those high-level numbers before we move into some of the audit topics? No? Okay, great. So we're happy again to say that the audit went really well. We've got what we call an unqualified opinion, so that's auditor speak for a clean audit opinion. We're ready to sign the report after approval of the financial statements here tonight, and just the minor outstanding matters that we always have every year, making sure we have all the legal correspondence and letters in. We talk to the lawyers every year, make sure there's no contingent liabilities or unknown things floating around up there. We've got the last one in actually yesterday or the day before, so there's nothing for us to bring to your attention in that respect. Our audit, we look at the controls in place at the town to make sure that we think that they're generating accurate financial results. We sample transactions throughout the year, but we don't look at every transaction that happens at the town. Now, the materiality that we use is $750,000. So we we test every transaction that's over that amount, and underneath that amount we sample. There's no limitations placed on the performance of our audit. We had access to all the information, documents, and paperwork that we wanted to see, and all the people that we wanted to talk to. We didn't find any irregularities. We always mention that we're not specifically fraud investigators, but if something comes to our attention, we have to bring it to the council's attention. We didn't find any evidence of conflict of interest, unusual related party transactions, or anything illegal or questionable in our audit testing this year, so that's a good thing. During the audit, we discussed matters with lots of people there, Don and his team, and Richard, and the rest of the staff. We'd like to formally acknowledge all the assistance that they give us throughout the course of the audit. It goes very smoothly. Some areas where we spend more time every year, we always look at the financial statement presentation and disclosure. That's just what's in the statements and in the notes to the statements. There wasn't any significant changes this year, and we don't have any changes coming down the pipeline for a couple of years now, so they should stay nice and consistent year over year. As I mentioned, we look into contingencies, lawsuits, see if there's anything floating around there that might cost the town a bunch of money, or whether it needs to be recorded as a liability. We always, if something comes up around fraud and error, we have to dive into it and make sure that we're satisfied that the statements are correct and there isn't any other issues. And the new one from last year, we're always looking at contaminated sites. And is there a hidden liability for the town, something that needs to get recorded on the statements? There's nothing that management feels, and we agree, nothing that management feels needs to be recorded as a liability at this point. So we'll confirm that MMP is independent of the town of Comox. We didn't do any other work, any other projects with the town that would impair our objectivity as of today's date, April 19th. And I'll wrap up by going through a little bit of financial analysis, looking at some trends and things, and just kind of see where things are moving with the town. Again, focusing all on the historic numbers, but you can kind of see where things are moving, and you can see some of the things that you've been doing in your budgeting and planning and how they've been, how the results have been. So we start by looking at sustainability, and we look at the total assets, compare that to the total liabilities. You want this number to be above 1. You want more assets than liabilities. So it's increased. It was 8.71 in 2015. It's up to 8.93. So healthy indicator that the town has more assets than debt. And then we zero in on the financial assets, the liquid ones, the cash, the receivables, the investments. Again, we want this one to be over 1. If it's under 1, that means you're taxing now to pay for past transactions. So when it's over 1, you've got some money set aside for future projects. It's been steadily increasing over the past 8 years. It's now at 1.98. So it suggests healthy sustainability. And you can see that in that low debt number that we saw a few slides ago.
So Corey, can I just ask you a question? On that 1.98, is there a number where you get too much? Like, you know, you can have too much in the bank sometimes. I guess it could be argued.
It could be argued depending on your both your 5-year plan and your longer range capital planning. It depends. I have seen people get into larger ratios here, more cash investments, but they've got significant capital coming down the pipeline, so they know they're kind of saving up for it. Right? 1.98 for the communities that I work with, that's fairly high. Most of mine are playing around at 1, 1.2, 1.3. But really, the policy decision is what's coming down the pipeline that you need to spend money on.
Yeah, and that's a healthy number to have there.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, and especially the trend. It's trending upwards.
Yeah.
That's good. But we'll see when we look at some of the other things that there is financial ability there, and then you look at what that means for some of the other ratios. Maybe tie them together. I'll show you. So that net financial self-sufficiency has been increasing for the last 8 years. So if we move away from sustainability, we get into the flexibility, and if we look at those in conjunction with that 1.98 number, you can see that the public debt charges, so the interest costs, are declining every year, which makes sense as the long-term debt's being paid down. The interest costs are coming down to a very low ratio at 0.8%. But here's where I want to tie back into the 1.98 is the carrying value of the capital assets has remained about 70% of the original cost. So that number is not moving much, which means that those assets continue to age fairly quickly, or that they are quite old at this point, and the costs are either climbing or staying steady, right? It's rare that I see people starting to catch up on this one, unless they've embarked on massive major capital projects, like big water and sewer treatment plants and things like that. But it's been steady at about 70%. So it's a reflection of sort of staying on top of it. If it's declining, you have some concerns that the assets are getting older, costs are doing nothing but going up. Right? So there's little change in the flexibility indicators there. And the last one that we look at is vulnerability to government transfers, provincial and federal funding. So the ratio of government transfers to total revenues went from 5.5% to 11%, mostly contributed to the Laza Road project that had some grant funding behind it. Even with the current year increase, the town has not been highly vulnerable. This ratio hasn't been large. Some communities that I'm working with this year, this is as high as 20 to 23%, because they've got large, some of the infrastructure money was flowing through. But the town has been down in that 5, 7, 8% range for quite a while. So the vulnerability and dependence on the government funding is low. You do tend to see that swing with the large projects. That's my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions along the way, whether it's audit or on the numbers.
Okay. Any questions for the auditor? Seeing none, a great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was going to ask him about tolls versus no tolls, but I don't have a bridge.
Well, we might get one. Guess this way.
Yeah. All right. So with that presentation line, we will come back to the financial statements later and the agenda. The next thing on the agenda is just approval of the regular council meeting minutes of April 5th.
Move. Second.
Approval. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. And for receipt, then the committee of the whole meeting minutes of
Move
April
receipt.
12th.
Second.
And all those in favor? Motion is carried. Recommendations, first of all, regarding the Legion loading zone, that the report of municipal engineer titled Legion loading zone be referred back to staff.
Move that. Second.
Second. I'll just comment that I signed a letter today addressed to the Legion, just indicating that staff will work with them on any needs that they may have on a temporary basis.
Just one comment. The other day I was walking down on Church, and in front of the church, on Church there, they had something going on, and they put their own signs, as Councillor Grant was indicating, that they can do no parking for a few hours, and I think that's a really easy.
That's something they can work out with public
Yeah.
works. Okay. All right. All those in favor then? Opposed? Motion is carried. Regarding the Stair House agreement, the lease agreement for the Stair House with Comox Senior Center Association at Town Comox will be renewed for 5 years ending April 30, 2022.
I'll move that.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. The beginning of tax rates, the tax rates bylaw for 2017, we drafted upon a 3.2% increase in taxes across all property classes except Class 6 business, which would have 2.2% increase in taxes in 2017.
I'll move that. Second.
Discussion on that?
We just get Dawn to go over that presentation.
We will have further discussion on the bylaw related to that here shortly. And of course, the second draft financial plan. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. And fourth recommendation was that staff be authorized to draft a financial plan bylaw for council consideration based on a staff report titled Second Draft of 2017-21 Financial Plan.
I'll move that.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Lastly, that the draft terms of reference for the Nautical Days Parade participation be amended to remove item 2B, member of the public, and that be approved. And further, that councillors Margaret, Russ Arnott, and Prince Swift be appointed to the committee.
I'll
I'll
move
move
that.
that. Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. I was interested to know that the city of Courtenay actually formalized this week a commission to deal with the Canada Day parade, because to this point they hadn't actually had a committee on it. So they've actually formalized it finally to provide liability coverage and things like that. So there you go. All right, so we'll move on to management report at page 43 for receipts.
Move receipt.
On receipt then, all those in favor? Motion is carried. I don't think there's anything else to update on any of those things, other than we will have a tour before the committee meeting next week of the Marina Boardwalk I see that areas are already open for pedestrian traffic. So.
Yeah, that's good down there.
So I just have one question about the development of the base. Is there any,
Well, the fixed wing?
yeah,
Still haven't heard, I haven't heard anything further on the, of course, the last thing we heard was that there was a court challenge on it, so.
but that was just for the plane, wasn't it? Not-
Yes, but, you know, I guess the whole thing might be tied up in that.
For a while. Okay.
So, the last thing I saw related to the base is they've authorized some work out there for up to $30 million, but I think that relates to another bit of work that was being done for the airfield and so on and so forth.
Yeah, there was that, the shore, we're doing some work down the
Yeah.
waterfront there.
So I haven't seen anything announced in
No,
terms
I
of
haven't
construction
heard
timelines. We'll see when that happens. All right, so we'll move on, if there's nothing further in the manager's report, to the RZ 16-6 zoning bylaw consolidation. So the first motion that staff are looking for is rescission of council motion 2017-017 that Comox zoning bylaw 1850 be given first and second reading.
I'll move that.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion's carried. And that allows us then to move forward with the zoning bylaw 1850 as amended, as per attachment 1, to be given first and second reading.
Move.
Second.
All right, is there any questions or comments on that? That was related, that one amendment was just related to rezoning of 1879 Comox Island, which will happen. All those in favor? Motion's carried. And that council, that wording doesn't look right. A public hearing be scheduled for Comox zoning bylaw 1850 be located at the council chambers. Oh, sorry. hang on.
No,
That's-
that- that counts.
It is
That's
rescinded.
rescinded.
Oh, we're rescinding. Oh, yes, you're right, it is. Sorry, David.
I'll
So
move
we'll
that.
rescind that, and we're going to have one, and we're going to second that. Somebody?
Second.
All those in favor? Motion's carried. And there we go. Now we have the public hearing to be scheduled to locate at the Stairhouse.
I'll move that.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion's carried. And I believe that date has been set for the 3rd of May.
Yes.
All right, so we will take those things at that time. Okay, so now we'll move on to the draft 2016 annual financial statements for receipt and approval.
Move.
Second.
On receipt and approval, any discussion? Any questions for our Director of Finance? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion is approved.
I'll move first, second, and third reading of the Comox financial plan.
Where are we at here? Okay, so now we're into bylaws, yes. Thank you.
No, second.
Any further discussion on the financial plan? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried, and also for the tax rates bylaw for second and third reading?
Move.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. So that'll allow us then to bring that forward in early May, is that the plan?
Yes, first meeting in May.
Okay, for adoption.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent work by staff on getting that done. With the council's input. All right, so we'll deal with that in the first meeting in May for adoption. Then we have the fire prevention regulation bylaw for adoption.
Move it.
Second.
Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. So we now have a new and improved fire prevention bylaw. Incorporating the changes to, I think, that campground.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right, and then last item here is of new business is the Comox Valley Sewage Commission. The council appointed a member of the council as a second alternate to represent the town on the Sewage Commission.
I'm not making eye contact with anybody.
I'm
I'm just looking down.
Well, I put Councillor Grant's name on, not this Councillor Grant, that one.
Councilor Mark Grant?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll second that. Real quick.
No 30 minute
I'm
vote.
not interested in saying anymore.
Do you accept that nomination?
Well, the chances of actually going
That's-
are pretty remote, but
Feel cold coming. Next time.
Well, you
I'm
never
going
know.
to feed you vitamins.
There you go. All right, all those in favor? Motion's carried.
welcome.
You are familiar with the things you were there now, so. All right, right, so no other correspondence related to delegations, so reports from members of council. We'll start with Councillor Arnott.
Yes, I neglected to mention at the last regular council meeting that I did go to the Comox Valley Arts 50th anniversary, and it was actually a really nice ceremony there. Talking about what they've done and the things going on there. And then what did I do? Normally I'm at the end when you ask these things, so...
Change spots.
Yeah. What did I do the other day? What did we have? We had something the other day. What did we have? Oh, the Easter thing. That was great. This event down at the Easter egg hunt that various sponsors were at.
Find any eggs while you were looking around?
No, but no. So that's
Great. All right, Councillor Martin.
I attended ADICC in Camel River, which was a very good event. I had an opportunity to view the hospital and left very impressed. It's
The new one you're talking
yes, the new one, yes, not the old one for sure. And also the forest management session, which is also very informative. I attended the water committee and CBRD as an alternate for Councillor Price. And the seniors are preparing for the volunteer tea. And they informed me that they're slowing down a little now in preparation for summer.
Great.
I thought so.
Hopefully it comes.
I do have an addition. Last night we had a marathon BIA meeting.
Oh,
I forgot that. But some interesting things that are on the works for that they have for this summer.
oh, good.
And they're happy with the proposed lower tax rates for businesses. So, thank you to Ron.
All right, Councillor Swift.
Okay, I attended the ABICC, and I'd actually forgotten. It feels like 100 years ago now. I went to the John Hart Dam project, and that was interesting. And most of it's going to be underground, so it's going to be all reforested, and we'll hardly know what's there. So, so that was kind of interesting, and always learn something, and it's good to talk to other people from other communities. I also attended the regular Filbert board meeting, and Val Porteous was elected as the new president there, which will be hopefully a nice connection to BIA and Filbert, and I think we're going to see some new energy there. The board is still down a couple members, so if anybody has some suggestions regarding people that you think would be good candidates, marketing and communication are one of the areas that they'd like to have filled, but they can have about 3 more members. So if you think of anybody, please let me know. I attended the Sewage Commission meeting, and I guess the biggest news was that the Quadrant project is underway, and I think we all got the notice regarding that. So they're hoping that that'll be finished towards the end of May. So, and that's my report.
Great. Councillor Arnott.
Perfect. Yeah, well, I attended the regional board meeting, the sewer meeting, and the water meeting, but since we already heard about the sewer, I'll go on to the water. So the major topic at the water was the fact that the engineers felt that we might be able to downsize some of the piping for the water filtration plant due to the fact that we aren't growing quite as fast as we thought and our water consumption is down. That would have saved us about $6 million on the project. It's a bit of a crapshoot in that if you do start to grow more, your consumption goes up, then you would have to twin those lines, which would end up costing you more in the long run. So that debate rattled on for a while, and it was decided to just leave it the way it was, put the bigger pipe in, and go from there. So I think Councillor Grant and I both thought that saving the $6 million was better, but we lost that one. So, also at the regular RD meeting, we had the Rails and Trails group come. So what they want to do is scrap the whole train idea and just go with the trail. And it'd be a lovely concept, except that Southern Rail has a lot of agreements with what and when they can use those tracks. And so we kind of suggested, well, why don't you do a combined, like if you want to get on and start looking at that kind of thing, then just pretend the train's going to be there. And they would prefer not to. So anyway, that was their presentation. And we also had an update on the McCall Housing Project, which they're just waiting at the City of Courtenay for some variances regarding parking. They feel that a lot of their residents won't actually need parking, and they can put more housing in if they don't have to meet the parking requirements that they're asking for. So that's what we did at the RD meeting. And and I went to Randy's pierogi party as well on Saturday night, which, by the way, somebody handed me 3 tickets and we won the 50-50 draw. But I can't remember who it was. No, I'm just kidding. He gave them to me. No, we weren't even close. So that's my report.
Good stuff. I'll just report AVICC attended that principally on Friday and Saturday. I attended the Mayor's Caucus meeting where we discussed some common issues around cost drivers that many of our communities are facing for policing and firefighting and for collective agreements generally. So there's some good dialogue there. Invited everyone, of course, to our Shellfish Festival coming up. So hopefully we'll see a few mayors from other communities come. Also participated in some of the resolutions which were of interest. There was one that was talking about development cost charges for the Island Corridor, and I spoke against it because I thought that we have enough development cost charges as it is, and I didn't see quite where that was going to go, but we'll see where that goes. Attended the Sewerage Commission as an alternate in place of Councillor Price, and then also attended an opening ceremony for the Lacrosse Association where they raised some banners they won last year, and that was well attended. The pierogi party, as mentioned. CEO and I met with Diane Hawkins and Kevin East of the CB Chamber of Commerce regarding the letter they sent us, and we provided them with a copy of the report and had a good dialogue about some of the concerns that had been raised around our development procedures, and they were having a board meeting, I think, last night talking about some of those things. And today I attended, just in the audience at the Berwick around the Water Committee presentation. Councillor Bob Wells was there along with Mark Tan regarding the ongoing process around filtration. So there's really some good questions that were raised there by people from the Berwick. Of course, they're one of the institutions that has to cope with that boil water stuff as a cost to them. And I think that was a letter they had written, and we referred them to the regional district. So it was a good discussion and a good presentation. Oh, the other thing I forgot to mention is I went to the Top 20 Under 40 Awards in Nanaimo on the 8th of April, and there was a couple of Comox Valley residents that made it into the top 20, Craig Renison and an accountant from Pressing and Partners, Catherine Jones. So it was good to see them get those awards. And that is my report. Yeah, that's it. So, with that, we'll move to media questions. Any questions at this time? Any questions from members of the public? Yes, sir.
Do we know if the usage of the current hospital is it finalized what the usage will be down the road, and do they need to come to council for any of the proof for anything that they're going to be doing?
Well, I know they have a task force and they have some ideas and concepts. They have been talking to our planning staff on an ongoing basis. For any significant changes in use, I would imagine there would be some rezoning applications required. For example, if they wanted to build a new congregate care facility, that kind of thing. So I don't know if the planner and the CEO want to offer any further comments other than nothing's been cast in stone.
No, I mean, our understanding is they're still doing their due diligence in terms of whether or not they're going to combine with Glacier View and the company from Vancouver.
Oh, province.
Yeah, province. So we haven't heard anything since. And I believe that they did put a bid on for the community care facility.
Yeah, there were 70 beds up for bid.
Yeah, and that hasn't been announced yet.
And I know that one of the challenges they have is demolition in terms of demolishing some of the old buildings, so that would be something that would require a permit if they were to do that. So yeah, no news at this point. They're continuing to operate. Of course, the new hospital will be up and running sometime this fall.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything further? Seeing none, we do have an in-camera meeting, so a motion to exclude the public under section 91E is required.
Move. Second.
Those in favor? Motion's passed, so we'll brief adjournment while the